It's officially springtime, which means warmer weather and longer days are just around the corner. And it has us thinking about trips we're going to take and people we're going to see, but do we think about how this time of year affects our pets? Let's investigate. Hey everyone, I'm Dr. Holmes, and welcome to another episode of Pet Doc Sherlock, where we help people solve the mysteries of pets. And if you've been following along, it's been a while since I've seen you, and I'm sorry for that. Life got a little bit busy. I had a computer crash. I had a lot of other things going on that required my attention, so it's been a little bit since I could get a video out, but I don't think that'll be the norm moving forward in the future, and we'll be able to get out a lot more videos in the future. But it is springtime. We did have a season change since I saw you last, and that means the weather's getting warmer, and we are looking forward to those trips. Kids are looking forward to spring break. They're really put out with being in school. Sports are ramping up for a lot of them. And so our schedules are changing, and we're looking ahead to being away, but we often forget to think about our pets and how all of this change is happening. So one of the things that I think about first and foremost is as the days get longer, as they get warmer, we tend to spend more time outside. And we often do that with our dogs. So we need to prepare them and ourselves for being outside more. Part of that is making sure that your dog is in shape. Just like with people, dogs tend to gain a little bit of weight over the winter. They're less active, the days are shorter, they're cold, it's rainy. We don't want to be outside, so we don't take them outside. So don't just get off of your couch one Saturday when it's 73 degrees and take your dog on a 10-mile hike. He or she is probably not ready for that, just like halfway through you probably won't realize you are either. But you want to just kind of get them into activity slowly. Work them up to it. Make sure you get them back in shape before jumping in full bore. The other thing is, if they're spending more time outside, they're exposed to the elements, and they're exposed to more parasites. So mosquitoes carry heartworms. It's very, very important for you to make sure your dog is on a heartworm preventive every month. capcvet.org, I'll put a link in the bottom of this video, has a map that shows the incidence of heartworm. And heartworm disease is prevalent in almost the entire United States, so there's really no excuse to not have your dog on a heartworm prevention. The other types of bugs your dog might encounter while hiking around or just spending a day at the park are fleas and ticks. Fleas are obnoxious. Some dogs have allergies to them and can lose a bunch of fur, get nasty skin infections, and be terribly itchy. And once they get in your house, they're really hard to get rid of. A female flea can lay around 100 eggs every other day. So for every live flea you see, there's a whole bunch more coming up soon. And then there's ticks. Ticks are around in most of the United States as well. Your dog doesn't have to be a hiker or go to the mountains to get ticks on them. In fact, in my neighborhood, my dog was in the backyard, came in, and he had 5 ticks on him. Now, I keep him on a tick preventive, so they hadn't bitten him, so they hadn't died yet, but in the suburbs, there's still ticks in my backyard. And ticks carry Lyme disease. If you're from the Northeast, you're very familiar with this condition, and your dog is likely vaccinated every year to prevent this disease. But Lyme disease is creeping into further areas in the United States, further south, further west than just the Northeast. So talk to your veterinarian about the Lyme vaccine and if it's appropriate for your dog. But definitely keep them on a flea and tick preventive. There's so many new ones out there that work really well, and they kill the tick before they can give your dog Lyme disease anyway. So that is the safest route by far. The other thing to think about if you're taking your dog outside is just like we need to stay hydrated, so do they. They keep themselves cool by panting. We sweat. Dogs sweat only on the bottom of their feet. That's about the only spot. So keeping them cool can be a challenge if it gets warmer and warmer, so you need to make sure you've got some water around and a shady spot for them to rest. In addition to being outside, our routines are changing. We're thinking about going on trips. We're thinking about being away from the house. So that's something you need to plan for as to what you're going to do with your dog or cat. Cats are pretty self-sufficient. I know lots of people who are comfortable leaving their home, leaving their cat with a big bowl of food, a clean litter box, and they'll be just fine for about a week. Other people have cats that need medications, need special care, and so talking to people and finding out someone who can stay in your home to give your cat that care, or your veterinarian or a boarding facility to have your cat stay with them and receive their medications, is a good idea and something you need to think about before last minute. It's often really hard to find a spot for your cat right before you're headed out of town. And the same applies for dogs. We often take our dogs with us on trips, so make sure you plan ahead and think about what you need to bring. Do you need to bring a dog bed, dog food, dog bowls, the leash, various other things? Medications, are they due for their heartworm or flea and tick medication while you're away? So plan for those. And if you're not taking your dog with you and you're planning on boarding them, make sure they're up to date on everything that they need in order to be at the boarding facility. Often places require rabies vaccines, distemper parvo vaccines, and bordetella vaccines. In some areas of the country, there is a requirement for the canine flu vaccine as well, because canine flu, is spread just like human flu in kind of areas where there's a bunch of dogs and they're in close proximity to each other, and it's transmitted by respiratory secretions. So talk to your vet, see if the flu vaccine is needed, look at the boarding facility, see if what they require, make sure your dog is up to date before you head out of town. Because it's really important that your dog receive any vaccine that they need at least 2 weeks before you leave. If they're overdue on a vaccine, it can take their body 1 or 2 weeks to respond to that vaccine. If you're giving them the bordetella vaccine or the distemper vaccine just 5 days before you leave, there's no guarantee that it will build up an immunity in their system enough to combat that disease if they encounter it. So you might have wasted money on the vaccine and you think it's working, but then your dog gets that disease. So you do have to do some planning ahead. And the other thing is, if you're new to an area or you've never boarded your dog before, ask if you can take a tour of the boarding facility. There are so many different places to keep your dog these days, and there's the basic kind of motel for dogs, if you will, and then there's versions that are more like the Ritz-Carlton, where you can log into a webcam and see how your dog's doing. They might have an activity cam in the pool area or outside. So it really runs the gamut as to what you want for your dog when you're away. If they're staying at home and you're not leaving very long, but your dog gets very anxious when you're away, talk to your vet about things like anxiety medications or things you can do, just changes in the environment, whether it be pheromone therapy or special toys to leave behind or things like that to keep your dog calm. And again, don't forget about cats. If your cat is indoor-outdoor, this time of year they're really prone to receiving more injuries because just as we are more active, our pets are more active, so are things like foxes and raccoons and possums and various other creatures that your cat might get into a tussle with. I know it's hard to keep all cats inside. I'm fortunate in that I have 2 cats right now and they're both indoors, but I grew up with cats who were indoor-outdoor. It was very hard to keep them in, but I did see a lot of injuries that they received as I grew up from getting into fights with other cats or other animals while they were out there. So if you can, keep them in, but again, make sure they're on a flea and tick and heartworm preventive, and just keep a close eye on them when they go out. Make sure they're coming back in and they don't have any wounds or anything like that, because especially with cats, those just cuts and scrapes can turn into nasty abscesses really fast. So those are just some basic things to think about as we move into this next season of the year. As we look to being away more often, we look to being outside more often. We need to prepare for those things, and we need to prepare our pets for those things. I hope this information was helpful. I hope you enjoyed this little video. And if you'd like to learn more about pets, then click subscribe. If you like this video, hit that like button. We have a website, petdocsherlock.com, and just follow along. I hope this video was helpful, and as always, keep your pets happy and healthy.